I still remember that Tuesday morning when my world crumbled. Opening my laptop to check my credit card statement, I saw charges I never made. $100,000 spent on a wedding I wasn't even invited to. My brother David's wedding. My parents had secretly used all 3 of my credit cards to finance the entire event. When I confronted them, they didn't apologize. Instead, they called me selfish and ungrateful for not supporting family. David screamed that I'd always been jealous of his happiness. His new wife Sarah smirked, calling me worthless trash who would never amount to anything. Then David punched me in the face and cut me off completely. The financial devastation from that betrayal nearly destroyed everything I had worked for. My credit score plummeted from 780 to 420 overnight. Every loan application got rejected. My landlord refused to renew my lease when he ran a credit check. I lost my apartment and had to move into a cramped studio above Sunrise Diner, where I begged for a job washing dishes. Those first months felt like drowning in quicksand. Every morning I'd wake up in that tiny space staring at water stains on the ceiling, wondering how my own family could have done this to me. The studio was barely 400 square feet, with a hot plate for cooking and a shower that barely drizzled lukewarm water. The smell of grease from the diner below seeped through the floorboards, making everything feel grimy and hopeless. Carol Jenkins, the diner manager, became my lifeline during those dark days. She was a tough woman in her 50s who'd raised 3 kids alone after her husband left. Carol saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. She let me pick up double shifts working breakfast and dinner rushes, scraping together enough money to survive. My hands were constantly raw from washing dishes, my feet ached from standing on concrete floors for 12 hours straight, but I kept going. The humiliation of my situation hit me daily. Getting rejected for a basic cell phone plan because of my credit score. Having the electricity turned off because I couldn't afford the security deposit. Buying groceries with food stamps while former colleagues from my old office job walked past pretending not to see me. Every rejection letter felt like a reminder of how far I'd fallen. But something shifted during those long nights in the diner. While cleaning tables after the dinner rush, I started sketching jewelry designs on napkins. I'd always been creative, but surviving on my own forced me to think differently. I began watching YouTube tutorials on my cracked phone, learning about metalworking, gemstone setting, and business marketing through free library Wi-Fi during my breaks. My first piece was a simple silver pendant made from a quarter I'd found in the couch cushions of the diner's break room. I melted it down using a small torch I bought at a pawn shop for $15. The result was rough and imperfect, but it was mine. I wore it to work the next day, and a customer named Margaret asked where I'd bought it. When I told her I'd made it, she offered me $25 for one just like it. That $25 sale changed everything. For the first time since the credit card disaster, I felt a spark of hope. I started spending every free moment learning new techniques, saving every penny to buy better tools and materials. The studio apartment became my workshop with jewelry making supplies, organized in old coffee cans and cigar boxes. My fingers were constantly stained with silver polish and metal dust, but each finished piece represented progress toward something better. What hurt most during this rebuilding phase wasn't the financial struggle, but the complete silence from my family. Not once did my parents call to check if I was okay. No apology, no acknowledgement of what they'd done. David and Sarah posted happy photos on social media from their honeymoon in Hawaii paid for with my stolen credit while I was eating ramen noodles and wondering if I'd ever recover from their betrayal. The loneliness was crushing. Holidays were especially difficult, spending Thanksgiving alone in my studio while knowing my family was gathered around a dinner table, probably never even mentioning my name. I'd created new traditions for myself working on jewelry designs while listening to old movies on my laptop, but the absence of family connection left a hollow ache that never quite went away. Yet slowly, painfully, I was building something new. Each small jewelry sale, each skill I learned, each day I didn't give up, was a victory against the devastation they'd caused. I started keeping a journal of my progress, writing down every success, no matter how small. Selling a pair of earrings for $40, learning a new wire wrapping technique, a customer complimenting my craftsmanship. These moments became my foundation for rebuilding not just my finances, but my sense of self-worth. 2 years after starting my jewelry business, everything changed when Linda Walsh, a reporter from Channel 7 News, walked into Sunrise Diner. She was working on a story about people overcoming financial hardship, and Carol mentioned my situation. I was hesitant to share my story publicly, worried about my family seeing it, but Linda convinced me that my journey might inspire others facing similar struggles. The news segment aired on a Thursday evening. Linda had filmed me working in my tiny studio, explaining how I'd taught myself jewelry making after losing everything to credit card fraud. She highlighted my designs, showing close-ups of my silver pendants and gemstone rings, while I explained my techniques. The piece was titled, "From Bankruptcy to Business Local Woman's Inspiring Journey," and it captured something I hadn't expected: the genuine passion I'd developed for my craft. By Friday morning, my phone was ringing constantly. Orders flooded in from across the region. People who'd seen the story wanted to support my business, but more than that, they genuinely loved my designs. Women called saying my jewelry reminded them of pieces their grandmothers had worn, handcrafted with care and attention to detail that mass-produced jewelry lacked. Within 2 weeks, I had over 60 orders backed up. Working 16-hour days in my studio, I realized I needed help. That's when I met Maya Rodriguez, a single mother who'd responded to my ad for a part-time assistant. Maya had been laid off from her factory job and was struggling to make ends meet while raising her 8-year-old son, Carlos. She had no jewelry-making experience, but she possessed something more valuable: an incredible work ethic and genuine enthusiasm for learning. Training Maya became one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. She absorbed every technique I taught her, often staying late to practice new skills. Her questions pushed me to become a better teacher, and her fresh perspective helped me streamline my processes. Within a month, she was creating beautiful pieces that matched my quality standards. More importantly, she became the sister I'd lost when my biological family betrayed me. The business growth was overwhelming in the best possible way. I rented a 1,200 square foot workshop space in an old converted warehouse downtown. Maya and I spent weekends painting walls, installing proper lighting, and organizing our expanding inventory. The workshop had large windows that let in natural light, perfect for detailed metalwork, and enough space for multiple workstations. 3 local boutiques approached me about carrying my jewelry. The first was Bella Accessories, an upscale shop in the Arts District that catered to professional women. The owner, Sandra Kim, had seen my news story and loved how my pieces bridged classic elegance with contemporary style. The second was Garden Gate Gifts, a charming store near the university that attracted young professionals and students. The third was Heritage Jewelers, an established family business that specialized in custom work and unique artisan pieces. Each partnership required learning new aspects of business I'd never considered: wholesale pricing, inventory management, shipping, logistics, and maintaining quality standards while increasing production volume. Maya and I spent evenings studying business guides from the library, figuring out profit margins and cash flow projections. Our first-year revenue reached $85,000, money that felt surreal after years of scraping together rent payments. The success brought unexpected challenges along with the opportunities. Managing increased demand while maintaining quality standards pushed both Maya and me to our limits. We hired our first additional employee, Jennifer Park, a recent art school graduate who brought fresh design ideas and social media expertise. Jennifer helped us create an Instagram account that showcased our craftsmanship process, attracting customers who appreciated the artistry behind each piece. But success also revealed painful truths about my family's ongoing struggles. Through mutual acquaintances, I learned that David had lost his job at Coastal Insurance Company 6 months earlier. The company had downsized, and David's position in claims processing was eliminated. Sarah worked part-time at a department store, but their combined income barely covered their mortgage and car payments. The most hurtful discovery came through social media. Sarah had been posting bitter comments on Facebook, making passive-aggressive references to people who get lucky breaks they don't deserve. Her posts talked about how some people have everything handed to them, while hardworking families struggle to pay bills. The irony was staggering. She was complaining about my success while living in a house purchased with money stolen from my credit cards. David's social media presence had become equally troubling. His posts alternated between desperate job-hunting pleas and angry rants about the economy. He shared articles about successful entrepreneurs with comments like, "Must be nice to have family support," and "Some people get all the advantages." The bitterness in his words revealed how completely he'd rewritten history in his mind, transforming himself from the perpetrator of fraud into a victim of circumstance. Despite their obvious struggles, neither David nor my parents ever reached out to apologize or attempt reconciliation. Their silence spoke volumes about their character, but it also freed me from hoping for acknowledgement or remorse. I channeled that emotional energy into growing my business and building relationships with people who valued integrity and hard work. Maya often reminded me how far I'd come during moments when family memories resurfaced. She'd point to our workshop, our growing customer base, our employees who depended on us for their livelihoods, and remind me that I'd built something meaningful from nothing. Her perspective helped me appreciate the present instead of dwelling on past betrayals or wondering about roads not taken. The business breakthrough represented more than financial success. It proved that I could create value through my own efforts, build relationships based on mutual respect, and contribute positively to other people's lives. Every customer who wore my jewelry, every employee who earned a steady paycheck, every boutique owner who praised our craftsmanship validated the path I'd chosen after losing everything. By year 3, my jewelry business had evolved into something I'd never imagined possible. The workshop buzzed with activity as our team of 12 employees crafted pieces that were shipping nationwide. Maya had become my business partner, her natural talent for operations management, complementing my design skills perfectly. Together, we'd transformed a hobby born from desperation into a thriving enterprise that generated over $500,000 annually. The flagship store opening was a milestone that still gives me chills. We found the perfect location in the downtown arts district, a corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows that showcased our jewelry like artwork. The renovation took 3 months, during which Maya and I personally selected every fixture, every piece of furniture, every detail that would represent our brand. The opening day event drew 200 people, including city council members and local business leaders who'd heard about our success story. What made the store special wasn't just its elegant design, but the story behind every piece. We created information cards for each collection explaining the inspiration and craftsmanship involved. Customers could see into our workshop area through glass panels, watching artisans shape metal and set stones. This transparency became our signature. We had nothing to hide because we'd built everything through honest work and genuine skill. The documentary opportunity came through Jennifer, who'd connected with filmmaker Marcus Chen through her art school network. Marcus was developing a series about American entrepreneurs who'd overcome significant obstacles, and my story fit perfectly with his vision. The documentary crew followed us for 3 months, capturing the daily reality of running a growing business while maintaining artisan quality standards. Being filmed was initially uncomfortable, but Marcus and his team were respectful of our workspace and processes. They documented everything from early morning inventory meetings to late-night design sessions showing the unglamorous aspects alongside the victories. The resulting documentary, titled Forged in Fire: Stories of American Resilience, premiered at the local film festival and later aired on a national cable network. The media exposure brought opportunities I'd never anticipated. Williams Garrett, a national retail chain specializing in artisan goods, approached us about a partnership that would place our jewelry in 50 stores across 12 states. The negotiation process was intense, involving lawyers, contracts, and production guarantees that pushed our capabilities to new levels. Maya and I spent weeks analyzing whether we could scale production while maintaining quality, ultimately deciding to move forward with a limited collection specifically designed for their stores. Implementing our employee profit-sharing program reflected values I'd developed during my own struggles. Every team member, from workshop artisans to customer service representatives, received quarterly bonuses based on company performance. Maya and I believed that everyone who contributed to our success deserved to share in its rewards. The program boosted morale and reduced turnover, creating a workplace culture based on mutual investment and respect. The business success enabled personal milestones that seemed impossible during my darkest days. I purchased a reliable car, moved into a comfortable apartment with actual space for living instead of just surviving, and started a savings account that grew steadily each month. But more meaningful than material improvements was the sense of purpose I'd discovered. My work mattered to people, provided good jobs for my employees, and proved that integrity could triumph over betrayal. However, success also brought an unexpected legal challenge that threatened everything we'd built. One Tuesday morning, a process server appeared at our flagship store during peak business hours. He handed me an envelope containing documents that made my blood run cold. My parents were suing me for $200,000 in family support funds, claiming I owed them financial assistance now that they were elderly, and David couldn't help them. The lawsuit used my old bankruptcy filing as supposed evidence that they'd previously helped me and deserved repayment with interest. Their attorney, Marcus Thompson, had crafted a narrative portraying them as generous parents who'd supported an ungrateful daughter who now refused to care for them in their time of need. The legal papers made no mention of the credit card fraud that had caused my bankruptcy in the first place. Reading those documents in front of customers and employees felt like being punched in the stomach all over again. The timing was clearly calculated. They'd waited until my business was successful enough to pay their demanded amount, then struck when the public legal action would cause maximum embarrassment and disruption. Several customers witnessed the document delivery, and I had to maintain professional composure while internally reeling from this fresh betrayal. The frivolous nature of their claims was obvious to anyone who knew the truth, but defending against a lawsuit would require significant time and money. They were betting that I'd settle rather than fight, perhaps hoping to extract a smaller amount without admitting their own wrongdoing. The calculation was cynical and cruel, turning my success into a weapon they could use against me. Maya immediately closed the store for the rest of the day, giving me space to process what had happened. She contacted our business attorney while I sat in our workshop, surrounded by the tools and materials that represented everything I'd built through honest work. The contrast between my authentic success and their fraudulent claims couldn't have been starker, but I knew that truth doesn't always prevail in legal proceedings without proper representation. That evening, I made a decision that would define my response to their latest attack. Instead of quietly settling or hoping the lawsuit would disappear, I would fight back with every resource at my disposal. If my parents wanted to use the legal system as a weapon, they'd discover that I'd learned to fight battles they couldn't imagine. Their greed had awakened something in me that they'd underestimated, a determination to protect everything I'd earned and everyone who depended on our business. The next morning, I called Lisa Chen, one of the city's top litigation attorneys known for taking on complex fraud cases and winning. If my parents thought they could intimidate me with legal papers and false claims, they were about to learn that the frightened, broke young woman they'd victimized no longer existed. I'd become someone who could match their aggression and exceed their resources. Lisa Chen's law office occupied the top floor of the Harbor Building, with panoramic views of the city that reminded me how far I'd traveled from that tiny studio above the diner. Lisa was known for her thorough preparation and aggressive courtroom-style qualities I needed for the battle ahead. Her initial consultation revealed the lawsuit's weaknesses immediately. My parents had filed claims without proper documentation, hoping to pressure me into a quick settlement. The legal discovery process became a revelation that exceeded my worst expectations about my family's betrayal. Lisa's investigators uncovered evidence showing that my parents had planned the credit card fraud months before David's wedding. They'd researched my credit limits, systematically applied for additional cards in my name, and coordinated their timing to maximize the damage. Email exchanges between my mother and David discussed which vendors to pay with which cards, treating my identity theft as a family project. Most shocking were David's text messages expressing his entitlement to my credit. He'd written to Sarah about how I owed the family anyway for everything they'd done for me growing up. Another message complained that I'd always been selfish with money and deserved to contribute to his wedding expenses whether I wanted to or not. These communications revealed a level of premeditation and callousness that surprised even Lisa, who'd handled many fraud cases. The legal fees were mounting toward $50,000, but Lisa assured me that we could recover costs once we proved their fraud. More importantly, she'd identified grounds for criminal referral that could result in felony charges against both my parents and David. The evidence was overwhelming. Forged signatures, identity theft, conspiracy to commit fraud, and now filing a frivolous lawsuit to continue their theft through the court system. While the legal battle consumed my emotional energy, I refused to let it derail my business momentum. In fact, I made the most audacious decision of my life during this period, purchasing a stunning oceanfront mansion that would demonstrate my success beyond any doubt. The property had been on the market for 18 months, priced at $2.8 million, but the motivated sellers accepted my cash offer of $2.6 million. The mansion sat on 3 acres overlooking the Pacific Ocean, with 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, an infinity pool, and a wine cellar that the previous owners had stocked with premium vintages. The master suite opened onto a private balcony where I could watch sunrise over the water every morning. A detached guest house provided space for visiting employees or retreat participants, while the main house offered rooms I could dedicate to design work and business planning. The purchase made local headlines that spread across social media within hours. Local entrepreneur purchases oceanfront estate appeared in the city newspaper with photos of the mansion's dramatic architecture and stunning views. The story mentioned my jewelry business success and documented rise from bankruptcy to millionaire status, creating exactly the public statement I'd intended. But the mansion represented more than a display of wealth. I planned to use it as the foundation for my next venture. The Phoenix Rising Women's Entrepreneur Retreat Center would provide mentorship, education, and support for women starting businesses after personal or financial setbacks. The property's peaceful setting and inspiring views would create an environment where participants could focus on rebuilding their lives and pursuing their dreams. The reaction to my mansion purchase was swift and revealing. Sarah's social media accounts, which had been posting bitter complaints about successful people for months, suddenly went completely silent. David's job-hunting posts stopped appearing, replaced by angry shares of articles about income inequality and housing costs. My parents' neighbors reported seeing them drive past the mansion, repeatedly taking photos and making phone calls from their car. Lisa used the mansion purchase strategically in our legal defense, arguing that someone capable of buying a $3 million property with cash clearly didn't need to steal money from elderly parents. The narrative they'd tried to create, a successful daughter refusing to help struggling parents, crumbled when confronted with evidence of their planned fraud and my legitimate success. The documentary about my business journey aired during this period, bringing national attention to my story at the perfect moment. Viewers could see the contrast between my authentic struggles and achievements versus my family's fraudulent claims. The timing was coincidental, but it reinforced public support for my position while increasing scrutiny of their lawsuit. Williams Garrett accelerated our national partnership after seeing the positive media coverage. They increased their initial order by 30% and agreed to feature my story in their corporate social responsibility campaign. The additional business provided resources to fight the legal battle while continuing to grow our employment and community impact. Maya coordinated the mansion's renovation, while I focused on legal preparations, transforming the space into a functional retreat center without losing its elegant residential character. We created workshop spaces, meeting rooms, and comfortable accommodations for retreat participants, all designed to inspire creativity and confidence. The project gave our entire team something positive to focus on while the lawsuit proceedings dragged through the court system. The property's security system included cameras and electronic gates that would prove crucial in future confrontations. I installed these features primarily for privacy and safety, but they would soon provide evidence of behavior that revealed my family's true character. The mansion had become both a symbol of my success and a fortress protecting everything I'd built from those who wanted to destroy it. As the legal battle intensified, I realized that my parents had underestimated both my resources and my determination. They'd attacked someone they remembered as a frightened young woman with no money or power, but I'd become a successful business owner with skilled legal representation and unlimited motivation to protect my achievements. Their greed had triggered a fight they couldn't win against an opponent they no longer knew. The courtroom was packed on the morning Judge Harrison reviewed our evidence. Lisa had prepared meticulously organizing financial records, communication logs, and witness testimony into an overwhelming case that exposed my parents' fraud completely. Their attorney, Marcus Thompson, appeared increasingly uncomfortable as the hearing progressed, realizing that his clients had lied about fundamental facts in their lawsuit. Judge Harrison's reaction to the evidence was swift and decisive. After reviewing the forged signatures, unauthorized credit applications, and coordinated conspiracy communications, she didn't just dismiss the case. She recommended immediate criminal prosecution for identity theft and fraud. Her words still echo in my memory. This court has rarely seen such a calculated and prolonged campaign of financial abuse perpetrated by parents against their own daughter. The judge's recommended criminal charges were filed within a week by District Attorney Jennifer Walsh, who specialized in financial crimes. The case would now proceed through the criminal justice system, with potential felony convictions carrying prison sentences for my parents and David. Their desperate civil lawsuit had backfired spectacularly, exposing them to far more serious consequences than they'd ever imagined. The local newspaper covered the story with a headline that vindicated everything I'd endured. Parents attempted to defraud, successful daughter twice. The article detailed their original credit card theft, my subsequent business success, and their failed attempt to continue stealing through fraudulent lawsuits. Reader comments overwhelmingly supported my position, with many sharing similar stories of family financial abuse. National media attention followed, bringing interview requests from business magazines, entrepreneurship podcasts, and television programs focusing on overcoming adversity. My story resonated with audiences who admired both my business success and my courage in fighting family corruption. The attention translated into increased sales, new partnership opportunities, and speaking engagement invitations that elevated my profile beyond jewelry design into motivational leadership. The book deal materialized through connections made during media interviews. Rebecca Martinez, an editor at Horizon Publishing, had been following my story and believed it would inspire readers facing their own family or financial betrayals. The contract for stolen credit earned success included a $300,000 advance plus royalties, providing resources to expand both my business and my retreat center programs. Writing the memoir became therapeutic, forcing me to process emotions I'd buried while focusing on survival and business building. Revisiting those dark days in the studio apartment, remembering the kindness of strangers like Carol Jenkins, and documenting my gradual recovery helped me appreciate how far I'd traveled. The book would offer hope to others trapped in similar situations, while establishing my credibility as a business mentor. During this period of professional triumph, David and Sarah's lives continued their downward spiral in ways that provided stark contrast to my rising success. Their house had entered foreclosure proceedings after David lost his job and couldn't find comparable employment. His industry experience was limited to claims processing, and his negative attitude during interviews made him unemployable at most companies. The foreclosure process was publicly documented, appearing in legal notices that local residents could read online. Their 3-bedroom colonial, purchased with my stolen credit for $420,000, would be auctioned to recover the outstanding mortgage balance. The irony wasn't lost on anyone following our story. They were losing the house bought with money they'd stolen from me. Sarah's social media presence, once filled with bitter complaints about my success, had gone completely silent after the legal judgment. Her accounts showed no activity for months, reflecting either embarrassment or advice from their attorney to maintain low profiles during criminal proceedings. The contrast with my increasing public recognition must have been particularly painful for someone who'd once called me worthless trash. The mansion warming party featured in Architectural Digest represented the pinnacle of my personal vindication. Professional photographers captured every detail of the oceanfront estate, from the infinity pool reflecting sunset colors to the wine cellar stocked with rare vintages. The article emphasized my journey from bankruptcy to millionaire entrepreneur, inspiring readers while showcasing the rewards of persistence and integrity. Business valuation specialists assessed my company at $2 million during this period, reflecting not just current revenue, but future growth potential through our national partnerships and expanding product lines. The valuation represented security I'd never imagined possible during those desperate early years, providing resources to weather any future challenges while supporting employees and community programs. Maya and I celebrated these victories together, but we remained focused on long-term goals rather than temporary satisfaction. The criminal case against my family would take months to resolve, and we needed to maintain business momentum regardless of legal distractions. Our success was built on genuine value creation, not on defeating enemies, so we channeled energy into positive growth rather than dwelling on their failures. The retreat center hosted its first program during this victorious period, welcoming 12 women entrepreneurs who'd faced their own setbacks and betrayals. Watching these participants develop business plans, support each other's dreams, and gain confidence in their abilities reminded me why overcoming my family's abuse had been worthwhile. My pain had been transformed into purpose that helped others heal and succeed. The Phoenix Rising Retreat program would become my most meaningful legacy, proving that trauma could be converted into wisdom and strength into service. Every woman who graduated from our programs represented a victory not just for herself, but for the principle that people could rise above circumstances and create better futures through determination and mutual support. As winter approached, I stood on my mansion's terrace watching waves crash against the rocky coastline, reflecting on the extraordinary year that had transformed legal attack into complete vindication. My parents' greed had backfired beyond their worst nightmares, exposing them to criminal prosecution while elevating my public profile and business success. Justice wasn't always swift, but it had proven remarkably thorough in this case. 10 years. 10 years had passed since David punched me and declared me dead to him. 10 years since Sarah called me worthless trash. 10 years since my parents used my credit cards for their golden child's wedding and called me ungrateful for objecting. I thought that chapter of my life was permanently closed, sealed by legal victories, business success, and the peaceful life I'd built behind the gates of my oceanfront mansion. Last Tuesday morning shattered that assumption completely. I was working in my home office reviewing retreat center applications while sipping coffee and watching pelicans dive for fish beyond my infinity pool. The security system chimed, indicating someone had approached the main gate. I glanced at the monitor, expecting a delivery truck or maintenance worker, but instead saw a battered moving van parked outside my property, its paint faded and one rear door held closed with rope. Standing beside the truck were 3 figures I recognized, despite the years that had changed them dramatically. David looked nothing like the confident insurance adjuster who'd once screamed at me for ruining his special day. His hairline had receded significantly, revealing a forehead marked by stress lines. Weight had settled around his middle, and his clothes, a wrinkled polo shirt and stained khakis, looked like they'd been slept in. His posture was hunched, defeated, nothing like the aggressive stance he'd taken when defending his theft of my credit cards. Sarah stood behind him, holding the hands of 2 young girls who were clearly twins, maybe 8 years old. Where Sarah had once carried herself with the arrogance of someone who'd married into what she thought was a successful family, she now looked exhausted and desperate. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, her clothes were clearly discount store purchases, and her face showed the strain of whatever circumstances had brought them to my gate. The children broke my heart immediately. Emma and Grace. I learned their names later, looked confused and tired. Their clothes were clean but worn, and they clutched small backpacks that probably contained everything important they owned. They had no idea why they were standing outside a stranger's mansion, why their parents looked so anxious, or what this moment meant in the larger story of family betrayal and consequence. David stepped forward and pressed the intercom button. His voice transmitted through the speaker carried none of its former arrogance. "Patricia, we need to talk. It's about family taking care of family." The audacity was breathtaking. After 10 years of silence, after stealing my money, after physical violence, after a fraudulent lawsuit, he was invoking family obligations. Sarah moved closer to the intercom, attempting what might have been a smile but looked more like a grimace. "We're here to move into your guest house," she announced, as if this were a reasonable request rather than an insane presumption. From my office window, I could see the moving truck was packed with salvaged furniture, cardboard boxes held together with tape, and the accumulated debris of a life that had fallen apart. Furniture I recognized from their foreclosed house was mixed with items that looked like thrift store purchases or charity donations. Whatever they'd managed to save from their financial collapse was loaded into that truck, representing the complete reversal of fortune that had brought them to my doorstep. I activated the intercom system, my voice calm despite the turmoil their appearance had triggered. "You have exactly 1 minute to explain why you're trespassing on my property before I call the police." David's response revealed the depth of their desperation. "Come on, Patricia. We're family. I know we had some disagreements in the past, but families should support each other when times are tough. You've got this huge place, plenty of room. We're not asking for charity, just temporary help until we get back on our feet." Disagreements. He called credit card fraud, identity theft, physical assault, and a frivolous lawsuit disagreements. The revisionist history was staggering, but typical of someone who'd never accepted responsibility for their actions. Sarah nodded along, apparently having agreed to this narrative that erased their crimes and transformed them into victims deserving sympathy. "The guest house is perfect for us," Sarah added, her voice carrying a desperate cheerfulness that fooled no one. "The girls need a safe place to stay, and you have so much space. It's what families do for each other." What they didn't know was that my security system included cameras positioned throughout the property, and my private investigator had been tracking their movements for weeks. Robert Kim, a former police detective who handled sensitive cases for successful clients, had provided detailed reports on their situation that revealed the full extent of their current crisis. David had lost his third job in 2 years just 6 months earlier. His employment at Regional Claim Services had ended when the company discovered he'd been falsifying customer reports to avoid difficult cases. His reputation in the insurance industry was destroyed, and his age made finding comparable work increasingly difficult. Sarah's part-time position at Discount Fashion Outlet provided $12 per hour for 20 hours per week, barely enough to cover groceries. They'd been evicted from their apartment 3 days earlier after falling 2 months behind on rent. The moving truck contained everything they owned, and they'd been sleeping in the vehicle with their children for 2 nights. Their extended families had refused to help, either unable or unwilling to take in 4 additional people during an economic downturn that had affected everyone. The children's presence complicated everything emotionally. Emma and Grace had done nothing wrong, yet they were suffering consequences of their parents' choices. They'd been uprooted from school, separated from friends, and forced to live in uncertainty while their parents' poor decisions continued creating chaos in their young lives. Robert's investigation had also revealed their reconnaissance activities. They'd driven past my mansion multiple times over recent weeks, taking photos and timing the security patrols. They'd spoken with neighbors trying to gather information about my daily routines and the property's layout. This wasn't a spontaneous visit. It was a planned invasion they'd hoped would succeed through emotional manipulation and guilt. Standing at my window looking down at this pathetic tableau, I felt a complex mixture of emotions: anger at their presumption, sadness for the children caught in this situation, satisfaction that their greed had led to such complete destruction, but also uncertainty about how to respond in a way that honored both justice and mercy. The intercom crackled as David tried again. "Patricia, please. We know you're angry about the past, but we're willing to work. We can maintain the property, help with your business, whatever you need. We just need a place for the girls to sleep safely." Their desperation was authentic, but their approach remained fundamentally dishonest. They still couldn't acknowledge their crimes directly, couldn't apologize genuinely, couldn't accept responsibility for creating this situation through their own choices. They wanted my help while maintaining the fiction that they deserved it. I had a choice to make that would define not just this moment, but the kind of person I'd become through all my struggles and success. The decision would reveal whether I'd learned to balance justice with compassion, or whether their betrayal had hardened me beyond redemption. I let them wait at the gate for 30 minutes, while I considered my response carefully. During that time, I watched through my security cameras as David paced nervously. Sarah tried to comfort the increasingly restless children, and the reality of their situation became clearer with each passing minute. They had nowhere else to go, no backup plan, no resources beyond whatever desperate hope had brought them to my doorstep. Finally, I activated the intercom system. My voice was steady, controlled, carrying the authority I'd earned through a decade of building something meaningful from the ashes of their betrayal. "David, Sarah, let me remind you of some facts you seem to have forgotten. You stole $100,000 using my credit cards without permission. You destroyed my credit score and forced me into bankruptcy. David, you physically assaulted me when I confronted you about the theft. Sarah, you called me worthless trash who would never amount to anything. You then cut all contact for 10 years, never once apologizing or acknowledging your crimes. When my business became successful, you filed a frivolous lawsuit trying to steal even more money through false claims." The silence from the gate was complete. Even the children had stopped fidgeting, sensing the gravity of this moment. "Your current situation isn't my fault. It's the direct consequence of choices you've made consistently for over a decade. David lost multiple jobs because of his own behavior. You lost your house because you couldn't manage finances responsibly. You're here because you've burned bridges with everyone else who might have helped you." David's voice came through the intercom broken and desperate in a way I'd never heard before. "You're right. Everything you said is true. We were wrong about everything. I was jealous of how strong you were, how you always figured things out. When Mom and Dad suggested using your cards, it felt like you owed us something, but that was just selfishness. I'm sorry, Patricia. I'm genuinely sorry for all of it." The apology, 10 years overdue, carried more weight than I'd expected. But words alone couldn't undo a decade of consequences that had rippled through multiple lives. Sarah's voice followed, quieter but equally sincere. "I was threatened by you because you had something I wanted. The ability to take care of yourself no matter what happened. I thought if I could tear you down, it would make me feel better about my own weaknesses. Calling you trash was projection. I felt like trash, and I wanted you to feel the same way. I've regretted those words every day since." These acknowledgments mattered, but they didn't change the fundamental problem. Their presence at my gate represented a pattern of expecting others to solve problems they'd created for themselves. Enabling that pattern wouldn't help anyone, especially their children who needed to see accountability and genuine change. "I'm not going to let you move into my guest house," I said finally. "But I'm also not going to abandon those children to suffer for your mistakes." Through the intercom, I outlined my conditions for any assistance. David and Sarah would immediately enroll in financial counseling through Lutheran Family Services. They would attend job skills training programs to address the employment issues that had plagued David's career. They would participate in family therapy to develop healthier communication patterns and parenting strategies. I would pay first month's rent and security deposit for a modest 2-bedroom apartment across town, but they would be responsible for all subsequent payments. I would provide temporary employment at my company's warehouse and shipping facility, entry-level positions with standard wages, and the possibility of advancement based on performance and attitude. No special treatment, no management roles, just honest work with fair compensation. Most importantly, I would establish an educational trust fund for Emma and Grace, managed by an independent trustee, to ensure the parents couldn't access or misuse the money. The fund would cover college tuition, educational supplies, and approved extracurricular activities, providing opportunities these children deserved, regardless of their parents' failures. The employment offer came with strict conditions. Any dishonesty policy violations or attempts to leverage our family connection for special treatment would result in immediate termination. They would report to Maya, not directly to me, eliminating opportunities for emotional manipulation or inappropriate requests. Their work performance would be evaluated by the same standards applied to all employees. David and Sarah accepted these terms immediately, their desperation overriding any pride or preference they might have had. The children would start school the following Monday, giving them stability and routine, while their parents began the difficult work of rebuilding their lives through legitimate effort rather than theft or manipulation. As I finalized these arrangements, I realized that my response reflected lessons learned through years of struggle and growth. True strength wasn't about revenge or abandoning people who'd wronged me. It was about maintaining boundaries while showing appropriate compassion. I could help without enabling support, without being exploited, forgive without forgetting. The trust fund represented my commitment to breaking cycles of dysfunction that had poisoned my family for generations. Emma and Grace would have educational opportunities that could lift them beyond the mistakes their parents had made. They would see their parents working honestly, taking responsibility, and attempting to repair damage they'd caused. These lessons might prove more valuable than any inheritance. Watching their moving truck drive away from my gate, I felt a sense of completion I hadn't expected. The angry, hurt young woman who'd been assaulted and stolen from had evolved into someone capable of balancing justice with mercy. I'd learned that forgiveness didn't require forgetting that boundaries could coexist with compassion, and that true success meant having the power to help while maintaining the wisdom to know how. That evening, I stood on my terrace watching the sunset paint the ocean in brilliant oranges and purples. Maya joined me, bringing 2 glasses of wine and her characteristic blend of practical wisdom and emotional support. "You did the right thing today," she said, settling into the chair beside mine. "You gave them exactly what they needed, not what they wanted." The distinction was crucial. What they'd wanted was rescue without responsibility, comfort without change, assistance without accountability. What they needed was the opportunity to rebuild their lives through honest effort, guided by clear boundaries and realistic expectations. My phone buzzed with notifications from our company's social media accounts. The Phoenix Rising Retreat Center had received dozens of new applications from women who'd heard about our programs through various media coverage. Each application represented someone ready to transform their own pain into purpose, their struggles into strength, their setbacks into comebacks. The retreat center had become the most meaningful expression of my journey. Every woman who graduated from our programs represented a victory not just for herself, but for the principle that people could rise above their circumstances through determination and mutual support. My family's betrayal had taught me empathy for others facing similar challenges, and my success had provided resources to make a difference in their lives. As stars began appearing in the darkening sky, I reflected on the profound transformation that had occurred in my life. The frightened young woman who'd lost everything to family fraud had become someone capable of building a thriving business, providing meaningful employment, and offering hope to others facing their own betrayals and setbacks. The oceanfront mansion represented more than personal success. It was a symbol of resilience, a reminder that circumstances don't define us unless we allow them to, and a platform for helping others discover their own strength and potential. Every sunrise I watched from this terrace reinforced the lesson that endings could become beginnings, that losses could be transformed into gains, and that the deepest betrayals could ultimately lead to the most authentic victories. I'd learned that family isn't just about blood relationships. It's about people who support your growth, celebrate your successes, and stand beside you during challenges. My employees, my retreat participants, and the community I'd built through honest work had become my true family. They'd earned that role through loyalty, respect, and mutual care rather than demanding it through genetic accident. The legal system had provided justice, but my real victory lay in becoming someone who could choose mercy without sacrificing wisdom, offer help without enabling dysfunction, and build something beautiful from the ruins of betrayal. David and Sarah's appearance at my gate had been their last attempt to take from me, but instead they'd received an opportunity to give. To their children and to themselves, through honest work and genuine change. As I prepare to share this story with you, I want to ask something important. Have you ever faced betrayal from people you trusted most? How did you find the strength to rebuild when everything seemed lost? Your experiences matter, and sharing them in the comments below might inspire someone else who's struggling with similar challenges. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to support more content about overcoming life's most difficult challenges, and share it with anyone who might need to hear that recovery and success are possible even after the deepest betrayals. Your engagement helps these stories reach people who need them most. Thank you for listening to my journey from devastation to triumph. Remember that your current circumstances don't determine your future possibilities. With persistence, integrity, and the courage to maintain your values, even when others abandon theirs, you can transform your greatest challenges into your most meaningful victories. May you find the strength to build something beautiful from whatever struggles you're facing, and may you discover that the people who truly matter will support your growth rather than attempt to tear you down.